How you doing, folks? Welcome back. And this one I call the best mistake I ever made, and why every chef has failed. Behind every kitchen there's a story, and I suppose this is one of them. And every chef has made a mistake. Some are tiny, a split sauce, a garnish forgotten, a steak that went too far. We've all done it. Some are bigger, a decision you wish you could take back, service that went badly, person you should have listened to, an opportunity you didn't realize till it was gone. And then there's the mistakes that years later you realize that were turning points. Because not all mistakes are bad. And tonight we're talking about failure. Not to celebrate getting things wrong, not to make excuses, because some of the most valuable lessons in a chef's career and in life, are learnt on the days when everything didn't go to plan. Welcome to Dark Side of the Kitchen. But before we get into it, if you enjoy the honest conversation about hospitality, don't forget, give us a like, a follow, subscribe, leave a comment. It helps greatly to reach more people and to make this worthwhile doing. People are actually listening to it. So I appreciate everybody who has dropped a comment, who has dropped a simple like, and it genuinely helps the podcast reach more people, and we can get to listen to more people. So, and tonight I want you to think about one question and pop a comment in the comments below. What's the best mistake you ever made? Not your worst mistake, your best mistake you ever made. The one that taught you something that you still use today. I mean, we're all taught to fear mistakes, not just in kitchens but in life. From the moment many young chefs enter a professional kitchen, they learn one message very quickly: don't get it wrong. The standards matter, and of course they do. Absolutely they do. People are paying good money for it, so they absolutely matter. Food safety matters, consistency matters, timing matters, allergies matter, and a mistake can have real consequences. But there's a difference between holding a high standard and creating a culture where people are terrified to admit they've made a mistake. It's okay to make a mistake. I recently had two new chefs start in the one section in the kitchen. And I said to them, we were starting service, it was going to be a busy service. I said, if you make a mistake, tell me. We'll stop for a second. If you get bogged down, tell me. We'll slow service for a few minutes. There's no point in pushing and pushing. If somebody needs help, if somebody's made a mistake, we fix it. We can talk about it later. No point in roaring chatting about it now, So, research into food production failures in professional kitchens has looked specifically at how chefs experience and handle failures. The findings point to something many chefs already recognize. Mistakes are part of a complex working environment. It's what happens after a mistake that matters enormously. That's verbatim from a research thing that I just pulled up online. In other words, mistakes are only part of the story. The response is more important, because we all learn from our mistakes, or, we're supposed to. Some of us are slower than others, but if someone burns a sauce and hides it, that's a problem. I had that there 2 years ago of a Sunday where somebody had put a sauce back up on the stove, overboiled it. The sauce had caught, they said nothing. We got slammed. I went up onto service, and when I went to pour the sauce, I went, what the hell? We were in trouble. But if they'd said it to me immediately, would have just made another one. You know what I mean? And it was a silly mistake. They didn't think about it. It was busy. But you can't change your standard, but the lesson was learned. But they never again did something like that. We would use a lot of butter sauces and cream sauces, which will go on you quick. Never again happened, but it did. And it was a messy opening half hour. And hell, I've made mistakes. Plenty of them, sure we all have. We don't like to admit it. I've made mistakes just, in simple mistakes like splitting a sauce, overcooking a steak, burning something. I've made big mistakes in jobs I've took. Huge, took a job many moons ago. I knew taking the job, I shouldn't have taken it. And I didn't last a week and just went, no, I should never have done this. It was a massive mistake. And where I was actually quite happy. And what turned my head, and this was back in the 2000s, what turned my head was money. Straight up, money turned my head. And where I was happy cooking, I was happy environment, had a good team. They offered insane money. And I took a job, and I knew in my heart and hearts everything was wrong about this, and I took it in. And I regretted it instantly. Now it led to some great place afterwards where I ended up working with some fabulous people. But yeah, where I was happy. So, there's a value in that too, to learn, trust your gut. So I was promoted too young as well, and I've been very open about that. Of my first head chef job, I think it was 23. I wasn't ready for that. Fuck me, I was not ready for that. I was by default, you know what I mean? It was people above me disappeared and they gave me the position. But I was far too fucking young and didn't know enough. You can't know enough at that age. And it took me a bit to kind of bounce back around. But I got there. So, and like, one of the myths surrounding, we'll say, great chefs is that they somehow arrived in greatness without failing. They didn't, Thomas Kelleher has spoken about the experience he went through during his career, shaping who he became. And I'm reading this straight off an interview with him. He also described greatness in terms of consistency, not one extraordinary meal, but thousands of excellent meals over many years. That's an important distinction. Greatness isn't perfection, because perfection does not exist. It's repetition, reflection, and improvement. And there's a reason failure features so often in conversations with successful chefs, and restaurateurs. Like I pulled this, as I said, I'm just reading it off of it. It was out of Food and Wine magazine, an interview with him. And they did a thing with people, and they highlight the importance of creating environments where people can make mistakes, learn from them, and share what they've learned with a wider team. That's very different. That's a very different kitchen from the old school model, the model I would have come up in, where the person who made a mistake, you hit it because you got roared and shouted at and slapped. But the modern question isn't who screwed it up. It's what happened and how do we stop it happening again, which is the correct question and the correct way, and that's leadership. And we have to come away from the old ways of blame culture to, bringing it forward, Because there's a difference between blame and accountability. Make a mistake, you are accountable for it. But blame isn't. And I'll tell you, like inside my kitchen, we have a waste sheet, which we fill out throughout the week and the month. And it's just to track any waste, any undue waste that would happen. And specifically on this sheet, there is nowhere for somebody to sign it. It is the product, the day, what happened, and the amount. That's it. The idea isn't to blame somebody for making a mistake. The idea is to see, was it a one-off, or is it something that there's a repeat pattern in? And if there's a repeat pattern in, we can find that pattern, break that pattern, and make it better. It's about accountability for all of us, but no blame, because you put a tray of something in the oven and you get busy on service, you forget it, you burn it. It goes on the sheet, you look at it and you go, it's a one-off. I have traceability for it for when it comes to end of the month. But you're not looking to blame somebody here. That can happen to anybody. If it happens every day, then there's an issue on how your prep is done and where it's done and the times it's done. And that can be looked at and changed. If there's consistently a lot of something being thrown in the bin, you now have something tangible to look at and go, why? It's not about blame. Accountability. The accountability as a whole, not as an individual, not as one person, but it's both. You also have to have accountability individually, you know? If somebody makes the same mistake repeatedly and refuses to learn, that's different. That's blame. Because if you're unwilling to learn and unwilling to take accountability for yourself, we all make mistakes, but you learn from them. So if somebody keeps making the same mistake over and over and over again, there is a point where you're going, what point, you teach as much as you can. I mean, if somebody was to ignore, I don't know, food safety procedure, that's different. That's a different conversation. If somebody is making mistakes and lies about it, you're not taking accountability, are you? You're playing the blame game. You're putting it somewhere else. Learning from your mistakes doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means separating the person from the problem long enough to understand the problem properly. And then mistakes can happen just because you're fucking busy. Just straight up, flat to the mat, balls to the wall, Fuck me, we've all been there. You're flat to the mat, busy, and you leave someone under the grill too long because you're fucking plating too many plates or whatever. There's no conversation with that. You know exactly why, how, everything. You're flat to the fucking mat. It happens. They burn a burger bun because they're plating 12 salads and they forgot to put a burger bun underneath the sally. We're not having a conversation about that. I know exactly what fucking happened. We all know what happened. You're gonna say, fucking watch it. They're flat to the mat. You can say, lads, it's not good enough. Keep an eye on it. You don't go at them over it. You know what I mean? You can demand excellence without demanding fear. So, here's a question from this episode. What's the best mistake you've made in hospitality? Maybe it changed the way you cook. Maybe it changed the way you lead. Maybe it changed the way you treat people. Drop it in the comments, And if you're enjoying the conversation, give us a like, a follow, subscribe, and send this episode to somebody who you think might enjoy it. And send it to somebody who taught you the most, even if the lesson started with you getting something completely wrong. There's a moment in every chef's career when the person making the mistake isn't you anymore. It's an apprentice, it's the commie, it's the young chef standing beside you. And that's where your mistakes become useful. Because you remember what it felt like. You remember the heat, the embarrassment, the fear that someone was going to shout, which hopefully is, I know it's going, but it's still there in some places or to an extent, and you have a choice. You can repeat the cycle or you can change it. You can correct the mistake without cursing the person out and belittling them, or you can explain the reason behind the standard. You can show them how to recover and give them another chance. And that's how experience gets passed down. Not pretending we never got anything wrong, but by showing the next generation what we learned when we did get it wrong. The most useful way to think about a mistake is information. It's information. Something didn't work. Why? Was the instruction unclear? Was the training inadequate? Was the system poorly designed? Was the person just rushed? Was the equipment wrong? Was there simply a moment of human error, which we're all capable of every day? And if the answer is someone wasn't good enough, we never improved the system, then we better start asking better questions and build better kitchens. You'll have to excuse me if my voice is a little croaky. I've actually been off sick for the last few days. I actually had a fucking fever. Would you believe this? In the middle of August, I had a fucking fever. So my voice is a bit up and down. I can actually feel a frog in the throat. I'm on enough bloody things for it. But anyway, but I usually record these on a Monday. Today is Wednesday. Wasn't up to it on Monday. I spoke like Batman on Monday. Anyway, an old head chef of mine used to say, I was chef de partie at the time, don't waste a good mistake. And then the first time it happened, inside doing something went wrong. And he just went, don't waste a good mistake. Because if something went wrong and you learned from it, you paid the price without getting the lesson. So take the lesson, change the habit, teach someone else, then move forward. Don't waste a good mistake. He took mistakes as a learning part, not just for the person that made them, but for those around them. But not in a belittling way, this can happen to any of us. This is what happened. This is what we do. And before we finish up, don't measure your career by the number of mistakes you made, because we've all made more than, Measure it by what you did with them. The dish that failed taught you technique. The service that fell apart taught you preparation. The difficult colleagues taught you leadership. The missed opportunity taught you courage. The mistake you never want to repeat taught you exactly what matters. Every chef has failed. The difference is what happens next. Get back on the path. You learn, you improve. And you go again. And if this episode made you think about a mistake that changed your career, drop me a line in the comments, let me know. And don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and comment, and share this episode with somebody who is early in their career that might need to hear that getting something wrong doesn't mean they're bad. They're not finished. I'm Noel. This is Dark Side of the Kitchen. And remember, behind every kitchen, there's a story. And sometimes the best story begins with something that went completely wrong. And as we go into this winter, there's a few chefs I've asked to sit down with and have a chat with. And obviously, through the summer, myself and them, we couldn't possibly put times together. But hopefully in the winter, there's a couple of these guys I'd love to get a sit down with and get a chat with. And there's a few I haven't asked yet, just because I know they're just as busy as me. But if you are out there and you do want to sit down with me and do an hour of just talking about our life in the kitchen, I'd love to, And sometimes the best stories begin with something that went completely wrong, and we've all been there, So until next time, look after your guests, look after your team, and above all, look after yourself. And let's keep changing the world one plate at a time.